Hey y'all, in this video we're going to go over the first part of the mammal notes. So first up is some characteristics that all mammals are going to share. They're going to be covered with hair of some sort. It may be denser and some may not be as dense. They're all going to have skin that contains sweat, scent, sebaceous, and mammary glands. They are all going to have 7 cervical vertebrae, which is the neck vertebrae. Yes, even a giraffe and its long neck have only 7 neck vertebrae. They're all going to have pelvic bones that are fused together. They're going to have movable eyelids. They're going to be endothermic, which we can call warm-blooded. They're all going to have 4 limbs for movement. They're all going to have a 4-chambered heart. They are going to have eggs that develop in the uterus with a placental attachment. And then, well, there's an exception to that that we'll get to later. And then the last thing is they're going to have milk from mammary glands that nourish their young. Right? A few vocab terms that have already come up or might come up, just so you know what they mean. The term sebaceous is a type of mammary epidural gland or skin gland that produces a fatty substance used for waterproofing. So, like the oils you secrete out of your skin, they come from sebaceous glands. The uterus is a hollow muscular organ that's found in female mammals, in which the fertilized egg becomes embedded in and develops into an embryo. And then it's where the fetus develops and gets nourishment from it. All right, the placenta is the vascular structure, which is embryonic and maternal, through which the embryo and fetus are nourished while in the uterus. All right, so that's where the nourishment actually is coming from. Then the mammary gland is the breast. It's in female mammals. The mammary glands are going to produce and secrete the milk to nourish developing young. And then gestation is the period in which offspring are carried in the uterus, like how long the animal is pregnant for. And then vivipary, which we talked about in, I believe, the fish notes, is the reproduction in which eggs develop inside the female body. So with mammals, there are generally what's considered 3 main groups or types of mammals, and they're broken apart based on how they reproduce. So the first one is viviparous or placental mammals. That's the majority of mammals. Then there's marsupials and then monotremes. Right? So viviparous or placental mammals, this includes majority of mammals. They range from rodents to whales, elephants, dogs, cats, bats, humans. Most of the time, a mammal is going to fall into this category. All right. For gestation ranges, the tendency is that the smaller the animal is, that they'll have a shorter gestation period, and vice versa. So, like mice are only going to have a 3-week or 21-day gestation period. Cats and dogs are normally around 60 days. Humans, of course, you should know, is 9 months, and then elephants are almost 2 years long at 22 months. All right. There are some exceptions to this trend. Whales, for instance, while they're very large, they only carry their young for about 12 months. So they're closer to the human end of things versus like the elephant end of things, even though they are much larger than humans are. Right. The number of young produced in a season depends on the mortality rate. So scientists have recognize this trend between the two. So, for instance, mice are considered prey. They can produce 17 litters of 4 to 9 babies each within which would equal to be about 153 babies a year. So they produce a lot because they tend to get killed off by other animals. All right. Most carnivores, however, are only going to have 1 litter with 3 to 5 babies per year. So, and large mammals such as elephants and horses are only going to have 1 baby a year. Right. Moving on to marsupials, this includes kangaroos, koala bears, opossums, and wallabies. They're pouched animals. They're viviparous mammals that exhibit a second pattern of reproduction. They have a primitive placenta compared to a lot of the other group of mammals. And then the embryo is first enclosed by a shell membrane and floats free for several days in a uterine fluid. Right? They essentially hatch from that shell membrane, and then it takes root in the uterine wall and absorbs nutrients from there. The gestation period is relatively short, and they give birth to very tiny young that essentially still look like an embryo. This early birth is then followed by a really long time of lactation and parental care. So, for instance, in this picture here is opossum babies, and they're in the pouch, so you can see just how tiny they are. All right. All right. The fertilization is followed by a 33-day gestation period. After the joey, or what that's the term for a baby kangaroo, is born, it crawls to the mother's pouch without help from the mother. So it instinctively knows to go into this pouch. And then there it'll attach to a nipple that's located inside the pouch. The mother can then become pregnant during this time while that joey's in her pouch, but the new embryos will stop growing after 100 cell stage. So they only get to be a certain size and then they stop growing. This period of rest is called an embryonic diapause, and it lasts for about 235 days while the first joey is still growing in the pouch. So essentially, the first joey's in the pouch, growing up, getting nourishment. The mother becomes pregnant again, but then it stops until the first joey's done, leaves the pouch, and then the second joey then can move into the pouch. So when that first joey leaves the pouch, the embryo in the uterus will begin to grow again, be born, and crawl into the pouch. So she'll never have like one joey in the pouch and then another one join that in the pouch. All right. The mother kangaroo can have 3 young of different ages depending on her for nourishment. It could have an already like out of the pouch joey, a joey in the pouch, and then one on diapause embryo in the uterus. All right. The last thing for this set of notes is the monotreme mammals. It includes the duck-billed platypus and echidnas. They're oviparous mammals, meaning they do lay eggs and they don't have a gestation period since they're not placental. They have a thin leathery shell, and generally 2 is laid in each clutch, or a clutch is like how many eggs are laid at a time. Eggs are laid in a burrow nest and they're incubated for about 12 days. But the young suck milk from the fur of the mother around the openings of the mammary glands. So they still do have mammary glands, which is why they're considered mammals. But all right, that is it for part 1 of the notes.